Today I messed up by wearing new underwear on a booty call. You know when you're wearing a new tee and you get that new shirt belly button fluff. Went to meet an old hookup for the first time in ages. We knew what we were there for, so after a few DRKs we headed straight to hers. As soon as we were in the door, she DRs to her knees, and under the glare of her bright hallway lights proceeds to pull out my dick, and immediately recoils in horror. So it turns out that the new, and rather dashing, purple briefs that I had just bought had shed an unreasonable amount of cotton, which had adhered to my old chap in a rather unflattering way. Essentially, the end of my cock was rocking a purple goatee complete with a nutsack that looked like a strip club beanbag. After her initial horror, I explained what must have happened. We tried to get back to it, but the giggles had set in. She said she couldn't get the image of my Tadger singing Craig David songs out of her head, and an hour later I left with blue balls instead of purple ones. Today I messed up by trying to use my shower as a dishwashing machine. So today, I officially reached a new low. I live in this tiny apartment in the heart of NYC. You know, the kind where the kitchen is a sink, a small counter, and an oven that hasn't been used since the Reagan administration. Anyways, the sink had been clogged for days and I had a pile of dirty dishes accumulating. Here's where the genius stroke hits. Why not wash the dishes in the shower? It seemed like a perfect solution, really. A lot of water, some soap, and hey, I could even multitask and get clean myself in the process. Killing two birds with one stone, right? Wrong? I loaded up the shower floor with the dirty dishes and started my routine. It was going well, until I slipped on a soapy plate. In an attempt to save myself, I grabbed the shower curtain, which of course, came crashing down, taking the curtain rod and all my dishes with it. But that's not even the best part. In the flurry of chaos, the noise woke up my eccentric neighbor who lives across the hall. He rushed in thinking there was some kind of intruder. I'm now laying in the bathtub, covered in soap and shards of plates, with a shower curtain tangled around me, and my half-naked neighbor standing in shock at the bathroom door. As if it couldn't get any worse, the impact of my fall and the dishes caused the shower DRN to clog, and now my bathroom is flooded. I've spent the rest of the day on cleanup and damage control, and the dishes are still dirty. My shower, my pride, and my kitchenware will never be the same. Today I messed up by trying to figure out a woman. NSFW. So I, male 25, am in college, and a couple semesters back I had a number of classes with this girl, and ended up working on a lab together. Found out her apartment complex was across the street from mine. We became friends and started studying together and hanging out. We were just friends. I was pursuing a different person from one of the classes we had together, and she was super into my roommate, and almost regularly asked if I could help her get together with him. He wasn't interested though. Eventually she DRP'd it. Early in the friendship, she would randomly talk about boobs or vagina. Not in a sexual way, but like the kind of stuff you might find in a "Women of Reddit, what do you wish men knew about" thread. Like I used to be a fat kid, like morbidly obese, took some time after high school to work and save money doing grueling labor and lost like 130 pounds. In college, not working all day, I noticed I was putting some weight back on. She was getting ready for a 5K and invited me to join her. I agreed, if nothing else, to get some exercise, and I made some joke about how since I put on some weight I might need a sports bra. And she started talking about how one wasn't always enough, she is rather busty, and how running without one can hurt. Stuff like that. Anyway, as time went on, I was noticing I was touching her boobs a lot, not on purpose mind you, but like at one point we were watching TV, I was sitting on her right. I asked for the remote because whatever was on was something braindead and I wanted to change the channel. She was offering it with her left hand she had in front of her chest. When I went to grab it, she moved her hand away. AMD, as you guess, I got a handful. I pulled my hand away and apologized. I'm not into randomly molesting PPL. And she didn't even acknowledge it happened. I figured she was just so caught up in playing keep away with the remote she hadn't noticed, or in the very least realized it was her fault and wanted to doctor the whole thing. Either way, it started happening often, and I told myself it must be a downside of big boobs, they accidentally touch everything. But then it started being more and more deliberate. Like she was learning to play the guitar, she brought it over so she could go to practice afterwards. At this point we weren't in the same class anymore, but we still studied together because my minor is her major and she would help with my more simplistic version of what she was learning. So after tutoring me essentially, she put on her guitar, she had a chest strap for it, and decided it was hanging kinda low. She decided the best course of action was she holds the guitar in the position she wants it while I tighten the strap conveniently resting on her breasts. At this point I'm thinking there's no way it's an accident. My conclusion was maybe she was interested in me. It didn't work out with the other girl, and having large breasts was enough to get guys, so maybe she never learned and other flirting techniques outside boobs. Several other people felt it was a reasonable enough explanation. I liked her well enough, so I went for it. She told me she'd go on a friend date with me, but she had a huge crush on the guitar instructor, another student doing a side hustle, and wasn't really into me. At this point I'm confused, but whatever, maybe she felt bad for me, so was low-key giving me some boob to make me happy. But at the same time she was talking about boobs and vagina a lot more. Like she'd come over complain about camel toeing in her yoga pants and her labia making it uncomfortable, and so she had to adjust and etc. etc. Some days it was all we talked about. Or one day we were hanging out and she just starts rubbing her boobs, acting like it's the most normal thing. I ask her if she wants some privacy, and she apologized and said she's on her period and the hormones makes her boobs hurt and so she runs them to make them feel better, and I don't mind, right? It got old fast. So it got to point where it was just uncomfortable to be around her. I enjoyed her company, she was really smart and great to talk to generally, but at some point her boobs would be thrust upon me and a nice conversation about said boobs leaving me feeling skeevy. No one has any clue what her deal is, so I decide to ask her. So we met up today and I was greeted with a thrilling story of how hard her nipples got in the lab. It's just too cold. And so I ask her something along the lines of, not to embarrass you or anything, but I noticed you always seem to find a way to put your boobs on me, and you always talk about them or your vagina. You said you aren't interested in me and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Admittedly I was nervous, so it most definitely wasn't as thought out as that, but that's the basic gist. She said she had noticed that was happening and she was sorry and thought I liked when we talked about boobs and stuff. She said she'd be more careful and we hung out a little bit, but she found some excuse and left pretty soon after. I figured I embarrassed her and she wanted to be alone, so thought nothing of it. Well, a few hours later I get a text from her, telling me I'm a disgusting breast-obsessed pervert. The only reason I pretended to care about her was to bed her. Her mom thinks she should get a restraining order. Her roommate feels like she should report me for a myriad of things, but out of respect for our once friendship she's just going to block me on everything and cut me out of her life. To add insult to injury, me roommate bumped into her and told me she said she couldn't be my friend anymore because I'm too perverted. Today I messed up by showing male cleavage. Today I messed up by wearing a deep V-neck shirt that showed off way too much male cleavage. It all started innocently enough when I decided to change up my style and try something different. I saw some trendy celebrities rocking this look, and I thought, hey, why not give it a shot? Little did I know that my modesty would go right out the window. I picked out the most daring V-neck shirt I could find, thinking I'd look cool and confident. As I got ready to go out, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and felt a mix of pride and uncertainty. But I brushed off my doubts, figuring I could pull it off like those famous guys. I went about my day, not thinking too much about my daring fashion choice. However, the attention I received soon made me realize my mistake. People's gazes seemed to linger longer than usual, and I could hear a few snickers here and there. At first, I thought I was just being self-conscious, but then a friend discreetly pointed out that I was revealing way more than I intended. Mortified, I looked down and, to my horror, saw my male cleavage on full display for the world to see. It was like my shirt had transformed into an inadvertent peep show, and I was the unwilling star. I quickly tried to adjust my shirt, but it was too late. The damage was done. I spent the rest of the day trying to minimize the exposure, tugging at my shirt nervously and trying to avoid any unnecessary movements. Needless to say, I never felt more self-conscious in my life. It was a painful reminder that not all fashion trends are meant for everyone, and this one definitely wasn't for me.